This is Julie Pearson Little Thunder with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. Today is Friday, September 27th, 2019, and I'm interviewing Doris Lasley for the Chilocco Alumni Association here at her home in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Doris, you're at Muskogee Creek, a Chilocco graduate from the class of 1955, and you served in the Air Force as a nurse from 1964 to 1966. We'll be talking about your time at Chilocco, your service as a nurse, and some of your career highlights after you got back. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Boynton, Oklahoma, and that's where I grew up. Stayed all my life there until I went to Chilocco.
What did your folks do for a living?
My mother, took care of her children, and I'm the youngest, and, did all the housework and stuff, and my dad worked in the fields there as, farmer, working for other farmers, yeah.
What was it like growing up in Boynton?
Well, I was small, so really, for me, it was fine. I enjoyed it. Went to school whenever.
Came to Okmulgee once in a while?
Once in a while,
town.
because if we went anywhere, we had to go by the bus. They used to have these huge buses that would stop on the road and take you. We'd go to Muskogee or we'd come to Okmulgee.
Okay.
And usually that was during the time that we would be getting school clothes. There was 2 times a year we'd go for school clothes. That was the beginning of school and the end of school.
What was your exposure to Creek language and culture growing up?
We attended a church at Grave Creek, which is located at Hitchita. That was, like native culture. My dad also spoke Creek. He was very good at Creek. My mom did not, so we never learned the Creek language.
Growing up.
Yeah.
What was it like going to school in Boynton? Do you have any memories of?
Yeah, I made friends and kept them for years. In fact, we had a reunion probably several years ago.
How neat.
And now a lot of them have passed away. And in fact, my best girlfriend passed away probably 2 years ago from there. I kept in contact with. And I don't know, there wasn't much to do in Boynton except go to school, and get on the school bus and go back home.
Right. How many students in the school? Any idea when you were coming up through it?
Oh, I have no idea. Just looking back on it, I'd say there was probably maybe 15 people in my class or something like that. They were small.
Right. Small classes. So you had 2 sisters who went to Chilocco. Were there more than that? Marjorie and Frances went to Chilocco before you did. Did you have any other siblings that went to Chilocco?
Yeah, there were 5 girls in my family. All 4 of them went to Chilocco.
Okay, all 4.
Yeah, and they seemed to enjoy it, and then I wanted to go after. But Mom didn't, or maybe it wasn't my mother. It might have been because I was located near a school, and I think they, I don't know what you would call the people, that they didn't want me to go to Chilocco because I had a school so near that I could go there instead of going off to Chilocco.
Right.
But somehow she worked on that until I got to go, but it was my junior year.
Okay, so it was junior year of high school before you went. Well, what was it like when you got there?
Oh, I loved it. I really did. I'll tell you, that was the best thing I felt like ever happened to me. Because it sort of like gave you maybe a direction in life, which I didn't feel at Boynton. You just went to school and went home. But when you got there, you had like vocations, and people talked to you about that. Like I took cosmetology there.
Okay.
And I never worked at it, but it was something I did.
You got that skill. What what impressions did the campus make on you?
I was really impressed with it. It was so nice. And when I go back now and see it and it's so deteriorating, it's really not good. But I really, enjoyed and thought the campus was so pretty. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the National Guard activities at the school?
I really think that Army company they have there, it was called the Charlie Company. That a lot of the boys, were in there.
Right. In the Korean conflict, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So you remembered some of the...
I just kind of remember that was there, but I really don't know what happened to you. You just I guess kind of hear about it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I knew my brother-in-law had been in that and was sent to wherever he went. Was it Korea? I think somewhere around there.
What teachers stand out in your memory?
Well, I had a teacher named Miss Heyman, and she taught civics, and I really liked her. And then I had a male teacher, Mr. Halfcoat, and I think he was maybe history. I'm not. And then there was an assistant, I think, in the principal's office named Mr. Jack McCartney. And he was the one that kind of helped me decide a vocation when I was getting ready to graduate. So those were the three, he really influenced me, you could go to school for being a teacher or a nurse back then. So
one of those two tracks, if you were a woman.
That's what they
encouraged.
That's what they gave us.
Right.
Those two.
Any other classes that you especially enjoyed, or?
I liked the English class, and her name was Miss Arnington. I enjoyed that.
How about buildings? Are there any buildings that hold strong memories for you?
Probably where I lived in a place called Home 5. It was our, our home after school. That's where you went. And like Marge said, we kept that clean. You had an assignment. Probably, I guess it was every day that you cleaned one thing, in that building.
What kinds of intertribal friendships did you have over there?
Probably most of the friendships I had weren't all Creek. I can't remember what they were, though.
What was one of the more funny moments you had at the school?
I guess working in the kitchen, because as we worked in there was always students with maybe Mr. Wernigan, and we would always be eating the food while we were supposed to be cooking and helping him.
How about maybe a difficult or tough moment you experienced at the school?
I guess it's probably mostly when I first got there and was getting used to the routine they had. Because we had to get up at a certain time. The house mother made you get up every morning. I don't know. We had to go to breakfast and then go back and do your cleaning. And then it was time to go to school. That was probably hard enough. Because when I was at home, it was just get up and eat and catch a school bus. So there's a lot of difference there.
Right. What, did you have any sisters still at Chilocco by the time you arrived?
No.
Okay. And how often did you go home?
Well, we went to school, I guess it's probably in August, and it was just at Christmas time that we went home. And at the end of school.
And for the summer. So what did you do after you left Chilocco?
After I left Chilocco, I spent the summer with my sister because I had my cosmetology and I tried to find a job in that and I couldn't do it. Well, this Mr. McCartney had also helped me enroll in nursing school before I left Chilocco. Okay. So I went up there and just took they gave you tests to see if you were, could go to nursing school. And I went up to Tulsa and did that. And after I got accepted, well, then I just decided to go on and be a nurse.
Now, were you staying with Marjorie?
No, I lived with my sister Frances.
With
in
Frances,
Muskogee.
okay.
Uh-huh. And they took me up to Tulsa to do this nursing thing. And then when nursing school opened in August, I went there for 36 months for 3 years.
And was it also at Hillcrest Nursing School?
No, I went to St. John's.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school.
The rivals.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, of course, you already had a sister who was a nurse, had taken that training. Was that an influence on you?
Yeah, it was. I always saw what she was doing, so I thought, well, I think I really want to do that too. But growing up, we didn't have a lot. And then I'd see Marge doing a lot of things. I thought, well, I want to do that, So, it did.
What was one of the hardest things about nursing school?
I guess just the school itself, learning all the things about anatomy and chemistry and those things. That was hard for me.
Right, right. How long where did you go to work after you graduated from nursing school?
Well, St. John's was like home to me.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of us just stayed there. I stayed there for several years. And then finally I went over to St. Francis and I guess stayed there for probably a year before I joined the service.
Okay. And you haven't married yet or anything?
No.
You're still single. Which branch did you enlist in and why?
Well, I kept getting these things from the Air Force through the mail. And, you always have a good girlfriend or several girlfriends. So I called my girlfriend over and told her, I said, look at all this stuff I'm getting there for. She said, well, let's join. So that's really... Yeah, we joined on what they call the buddy system back then.
Right, right. That happened quite a bit. So, where did they send you after you signed up?
She went probably a month before I did, and we went to Montgomery, Alabama, and had our basic training there. And then we both went to Blytheville, Arkansas, which is pretty near Memphis.
So, what was it like in Montgomery, Alabama? That's a big change over there, probably.
Yeah, it was. It was different for me. And we just had a lot of courses in protocol and things like that for the Air Force.
But you had your friend doing the same, or was she?
She went a month ahead. She went a month ahead of me. So, no, she wasn't there.
Yeah,
she went on. Yeah.
She had gone on to a different place. When you had leave time and you could leave the base, what did you do when you were in boot camp?
Well, a lot of the nurses was always going to the shore, which was pretty close to Montgomery. I'd never been to the beach or shore or anything else, so it never impressed me. I did not go with them, but I did go into Montgomery, Alabama, and just
into the
go
city.
to stores,
Yeah.
But, I didn't go to the shore with them, which was, I think, now I look back because I've done that a lot since then, but I didn't then.
You
I
weren't
just didn't know anything about
it. How are medical personnel treated in boot camp? Are they?
Oh, it was very good because I don't know. I always felt it was like because we were officers, we didn't do a lot of things that the enlisted people did. We learned marching but we didn't have a lot of activities to get up like 5 o'clock in the morning for.
Right.
Yeah.
Where were you assigned after you left boot camp?
We went to Blytheville, Arkansas.
Blytheville.
And that's where we spent our rest of our time.
Okay. And how big is that facility there? Is it?
Oh, it was pretty big.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What kinds of patients did you see?
We had pediatrics for children of the, people on the base.
Mhm.
We had OB, having babies. We had medical ward, just general sickness of, wives, doctors, anybody that got sick was there. Surgery.
Mhm.
We had everything. We had emergency room and just clinics for, colds and things like that.
Mhm. Where did you work the most over there? Did you work on one area or another? Or?
One area was just like it had medical and pediatrics because the hospital wasn't huge,
Mhm.
but that was sort of like combined. So if you worked there, you took care of both of those. And then OB was different and surgery was different, like that. So we could be assigned to OB or we could just be assigned to the medical ward, which encompassed just, general illnesses in the pediatric patients.
Right. So after you did your 2 years, right? You did 2 years. What happened?
Oh, I got out and I came and worked in Tulsa for several months, and I worked at an osteopathic hospital there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down by the river.
Mm-hmm.
And then.
Then I eventually got married and had 3 girls, and then after that I just sort of like worked, different places.
What, sort of like a substitute teacher, sort of? You could nurse?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I never did anything outside of nursing.
Yeah, but I mean, you could go work for one hospital for a
Oh,
while
yeah.
and then gotcha, while you're raising your kids. How did you meet your husband?
I had actually met him in the Air Force before I left there.
Okay. And he was from Oklahoma?
No, he's from New Jersey.
That's the New Jersey connection. I know you have a granddaughter and a daughter out there, I guess. What was the hospital you most enjoyed working in once you were raising a family and you were kind of going here and there, sort of?
I really didn't like working when my kids were small, although I did. I worked at VA at Muskogee for some time.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have what they call rotating shifts. You work days and you work evenings and you work nights. But
Right.
I guess I probably like that because if you're living in Muskogee, Oklahoma, there's not many places to work there.
Right. Right.
And after that, which was later in my nursing career, I worked for the Department of Human Services, and that's where I retired from.
Oh, okay.
As a nurse for them.
Okay.
That was probably the best and the easiest job. Wasn't a lot of nursing, You did wards and things like that.
Right. Was it more kind of social services combined with? Okay. Well, what was one of your maybe more memorable nursing moments, or a moment that was particularly rewarding? There probably were a lot of them.
I think my DHS job, I liked that a lot. It was like work, which is strange. It was working with the elderly, going to the homes, seeing that they were taking their medication, make sure that they kept their houses safe for them,
Oh,
which
neat.
is now I take care of myself in that way.
Since you were married to a man from New Jersey, did you start making trips to New Jersey occasionally too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what were your impressions of that part of the country?
I really didn't like it. I wanted to live in Oklahoma. That was just.
Right. Right.
But I guess my kids did. 2 of them ended up there.
Right. Right. What was the most difficult thing about being a nurse when you were in the Air Force?
Well, in the Air Force, we rotated shifts, which was sort of like the VA. You work days, evenings, and nights, you know. And that's just the way it went. I don't really like that. I like to have, like, if I'm going to work days, I'm going to work days, just not, you know. But I guess that was probably the worst thing about it. Otherwise, you just, you know, being a nurse.
What was one of the best things about being a nurse in the service?
Well, I guess we got to go to a lot of briefings about what was going on at the war. Not that I remember them, some of the things like that. But, you know, which was really nice, because we'd go to this building that had what was all like secret things, you know, that they would tell us about. And before that, we had to go in and sign some kind of forms to be able to even go to this kind of briefings. But that was probably, I like that. You know, I thought that was kind of impressive.
So we are talking about the Vietnam War here.
Yeah.
This was in Arkansas that you were going to the briefings. Let's see. So, what are a couple of things that you've done since you retired that you're most happy about?
Since I retired?
Yes.
Oh. I haven't really done too much, you know, since I retired. I just sort of like done what I wanted to, which I enjoy, you know. I enjoy doing sewing and doing flowers and things like that, gardening, I guess.
How long did you end up nursing overall? And I know you had that period when your kids were growing up that you weren't.
Oh. Well, I graduated from nursing school in '58. And I retired in like 2002. So I guess I've worked for like 50 years.
Right. Well, you do Tai Chi sometimes.
Yeah, I do.
With your sister.
I do Tai Chi.
Have you kept in touch with your fellow Chiloccoans over the years? How much have you kept in touch?
No, I really haven't.
Are you a member of any Native veterans groups?
No, I don't know. I don't know of any.
But you are involved with the women's veterans.
Oh yeah,
project.
the women's. They have this Women's Recognition Day for all veterans in Oklahoma, women veterans in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. In fact, that's next weekend, October the 4th. Yeah, and Marge and I are going to that.
And you and Marge also went to the opening
of the Women's
of the
Memorial.
Was it? Yeah. Tell us a little about that.
Well, I don't know. It's very impressive because, well, everything in there is about women's. We saw one Native American nurse from here, and Marge knew her better than I did, but we went in there and saw that. Then while we were there, we got to, I think, sign in some things. My daughter told me she went there this last year, and she said, "Mom, you really need to go and rewrite your things that you did." Yeah, but we went there to, you know, see that.
To see the opening of it. That's neat.
We wanted to go back, but that hasn't happened.
Well, it may yet. So when you do make the Chilocco reunions, what do you enjoy about them?
Seeing people that I went to school with. The funny part is you don't recognize anybody anymore until you just happen to maybe see their names.
Right.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Right.
So, yeah, my daughter came from New Jersey because Katie was doing this research, and they came and took me last year, and I had not been in 5 years. And Marge and I would go all the time, but it's quite a distance to Chilocco. Right. And then if you don't get a room at where the reunion is held,
Right.
and you're going to be driving at night to go someplace, and I'm not doing that, you know.
Right, right.
Because at a certain point, you don't want to be driving at night.
Right. Well, I'm glad that she was able to go up there with you and talk you into doing this interview too.
And she was very good too, though, because my daughter made us go to everything. She did not let us miss one thing. She said, we're going to everything they're doing, you know, and so she said, be ready.
Oh,
but then when I take Marge, we didn't do that. That's why we didn't go to the veterans breakfast.
I see. As the truth comes out. Well, what else would you like people to know or remember from your story, either about Chilocco or being a nurse in the service or?
Well, I'd like people to know that even though you come from, you know, not a lot of money, that you can, and even though I never made a lot of money, that you can, you know, improve your own life just by continuing to go to school and get your education. Because it, you know, it's, and actually our mother really pushed that for us. You know, she told us to go to continue our schooling. Because Dad and my mom only went to the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
That's neat. Is there anything else we should talk about that we haven't covered?
No, that's about it for me. I don't have anything to add.
Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for
You're
taking
welcome.
time to talk with us today.
You're welcome, and I enjoyed it. And glad we have this interview done now.